Hey friends, welcome to Unmasking with Cindy and Sarah. Today, Cindy and I are going to be talking about our own birth stories with our own children and generational trauma and how all of that plays in. So that will be the first part. And then we are going to have a second episode airing the following week, talking about our postpartum journeys, what we went through. So we're just glad you guys are here. So it's just Cindy and I, and we're just going to have a nice little conversation all about having babies. Having babies.
Yeah, this was inspired by our conversation with Elise. One of the reasons why we had her on is because she has had quite the journey with getting pregnant, staying pregnant, and then her own birth complications. And so that really inspired Sarah and I to just unmask it all with talking about birth and all the fun things that are involved there.
I know. So I thought maybe we could talk. I remember in grad school in one of our classes, I think it was Family of Origin, where they talked about the importance of how you're told your birth story went.
Yeah.
So like how your parents told you about you coming into this world, how when they found out they were pregnant with you, all those things really play a role in how you kind of see yourself in the world. It kind of, they say that it can, play a part in that, and your, developing self-concept and all of that. So I thought we would both kind of share. So did you want to share first,
Sure,
Cindy, a little bit about what your parents told you when you came in the world? Little Cynthia. Little tiny Cynthia.
Yeah, I love that idea about knowing your birth story. And that has come up in therapy for me personally again. And I wasn't told my birth story in a start to finish cohesive narrative. I was told my birth story by my grandmother first. And so I always really kind of understood that I came into the world at a really difficult time in my parents' life and also my grandparents' life. I was born about a year after my mom's sister passed in a tragic accident. And so when I go back and put the pieces together, I look at the calendar date, and she passed December 24th, 1977. I was born December 11th. 1978. And why I bring that up is because there was a lot of grief in my family at the time. And my parents' marriage was on the rocks. And so the story I tell myself is that I was kind of this last ditch attempt to kind of patch some things and bring some joy into the family.
Let's have a baby. Let's have a baby. It's going to fix it all.
Let's have a baby so that we can heal and grow closer.
That's what they do. Babies. Yeah, they make it a lot calmer, guys.
They really do. Yeah, for sure. Especially for a couple of kids, as my parents were. Right. So like, not only were we grieving and kind of walking through a really hard time in my family, but we just, our prefrontal cortexes were not fully developed. And so the plan did not go as planned, and I was born a couple of weeks early. My mom had to have an emergency C-section with me, and as the story goes, she had pretty severe postpartum, which is, we didn't know a lot about that in the late 70s. And so I actually did not go home from the hospital with my mom. I went home with my grandmother and spent the first couple of months really around the clock with my grandmother because my mom was not well. And so I guess when I think about my birth story, and I don't share this to really bring the tone down. I share it because I think it's an important part of how I saw myself for a really long time in my family of origin, that like, yeah, like here I was, and the timing was not ideal. So I think I carried a lot of heaviness about that for a long time. I've since then gone back through a lot of my own personal work and revised that narrative for myself. So yeah, that's my story.
I do think too, you and your grandmother did have a special bond in a way, because she was a lot like a mother to you. And that's who you really kind of look to as more of a, because you ended up taking care of your mother more. You were more like parentified with your mother. And so your grandmother was really more stepped in for the role as a mother. And so I think too, that's where that complex relationship came in. But I know you miss both of them in their own way. And I know from doing your own work, from me doing my own work, all of it, we have really been able to understand the women in our family and the generations and what they went through. And I think a lot of times that really helps because I think a lot of times everybody's doing the best that they can with what they have. But it also just helps you make sense of things. But I didn't realize like there was like a big emergency. And then so were you not supposed to be born until January?
Actually, I think it was like around Christmas was my due date. And my mom, the way she would explain it is that, it was a pretty traumatic situation for her. It was unexpected. That was back in the late 70s when they didn't even really let the father in the OR. And so it was pretty traumatic. I'm not really sure what caused the break for my mom. I think she had already been struggling mentally with a lot of things. And then that was just kind of the straw that broke it all for her. When she would talk to me about it, she had a lot of regret and a lot of sadness. And I think she herself carried a lot of shame about, not being able to have that contact and that important connection with me. And as we know, Sarah, when we were in grad school, we studied a lot about the importance of those first 72 hours, really, that like skin to skin contact, bonding with the mother. And so I think for me, it helped me understand over the years, like why when I had my own children, nurturing was kind of fumbly and weird for me. Not that I didn't know how to do it, but I was definitely raised by a more like dismissive, like avoidant style. And so I had to really teach myself how to do those things, how to nurture. And I think for the longest time, I didn't really understand what was wrong there. Like, why didn't that come naturally to me?
But I find that funny because your firstborn is like such a handsy, like loves a lot of physical, and your husband too. And so I think that was also, you're drawn to that, even though,
I wanted it.
It's uncomfortable. It's like avoidant, like you want it, but you want to avoid it a little bit because it's just a little uncomfortable. Sure. But I also think it's so funny because with my own child, I will hug her all day. And I'm not one that loves to like I'm like, let's cuddle and spoon. And, I'm like, I need my own space now. Like when I'm trying to go to bed, but with her, I love it. Like it's very healing with your child. I think sometimes to have those, I'll take them when I can get them. And but I have a very, like, she's physical touch. Like all the time.
Sure.
That's why she and Ethan are so close, I think. They both are similar. But it's like they're given to you to heal that part of you in a way. I don't know. That's not to look at it. But it's hard because you want to think it's natural. Like you see the movies, you see all of these people with their babies, and you think, oh, it's just, I'm going to breastfeed and everything's going to be so easy. And my baby and I, we're just going to love each other. And it's not, and no one talks about like all of the trauma of the birth and what happens there. And then your whole life is changed in a second. And, especially something like your mom being rushed in for an emergency C-section, like she didn't have any time to process. And what was up with putting women to sleep? Like, why are we just knocking them out? Like,
I don't know.
And then you wake up and they're like, it's a girl, it's a boy, like crazy.
So confusing.
Right?
What a confusing, disorienting way to do something. I don't know what that was. But what about you, Sarah? Like, do you know your birth story?
I do. Actually, it's funny. Both of my parents love to tell my birth story every year on my birthday.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my dad, he has 3 boys and me, but it's my birth story he tends to always talk about, because there was a lot of trauma around. Well, he was in Vietnam with his oldest.
Mm-hmm.
And then Travis, my older sibling, there was a lot of trauma. He was born in 79, and they had to take him away immediately. And my dad kind of had to go with him to a different hospital, and my mom couldn't see him. There was just a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like the first baby that my dad was really present for, that it went pretty normal.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a long labor. Like, my mom was she was high risk, and then she was put on bed rest in April. I was supposed to be born in June, but I came in May. And so she was on hardcore medication to keep her from going into labor and her water breaking. And so when she did go into the hospital, she was in labor like 23 and a half hours. And so my dad loves to tell the story about how he was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, it was just so long,
Yeah.
And then I know, and then I slept, apparently, after I was born. Like, I slept for like 12 hours straight. And if you know me,
Wow.
I love my sleep. And to this day, like, I still, like, I can sleep anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
anytime. But it was a real, my mom said when she saw me, because there was a lot of trauma around my brother Travis, and he wasn't breathing and all of that. So the first thing she asked was, "Is she breathing?" When I was born, is what I was told. And then she said that she looked at me and she said, "There is a God," which I remember saying that in grad school. And I think that that was just a beautiful thing to say to someone, like, that I was her gift. Like, she tells me that I was her gift from God, like her. And but then with that, she said, we've had our own conversations, and she said, we've held you to a very high standard in this family, and I'm sorry if there was pressure on that. But I was like the first, those memes, it was like firstborn granddaughter, firstborn niece, firstborn daughter in the family. Like, I basically started my family. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I did. I started the family. My grandmother was so excited because I was the first granddaughter. And she told my dad when he called to say it was a girl, because they didn't know till I was born, that he would never have to buy anything. She was, bought all the clothes. And there was a lot of joy around me being born, which I think I don't know. It was just wonderful as a person, to hear that, because my mom I think my mom really wanted to instill that in me, because she was told a very different birth story from her own mother, that like she was an accident. Like, I don't think people realize it, but when they say, like, instead of an accident, guys, if you're listening, say like, you were a beautiful surprise. Like, let's not say accident, because that can really like make someone feel like they weren't really meant to be there.
That's
so, but she was told that. And so her whole life she kind of felt, and that she was supposed to be a boy, like those kinds of things. But, no, there was a lot of joy around my birth, but I think it was because it was so traumatic with my brothers, and mine was the first like normal birth for my parents. And so, my mom said they put her in a closet, like what is it, like a storage closet in the hospital, because there were so many people and so many issues going on. But she was so happy because she had a healthy baby. She didn't have to worry about a sick baby, like she had before. And so she was happy to be in like a closet with her baby who was sleeping. So yeah,
the calmness. I love that they tell you that story every year on your birthday. I think
every year.
So special, because I can really relate to a lot of what your mom was, sharing about maybe not feeling wanted or feeling like burdensome. Birthdays have always been really complicated for me until recently. I don't get quite as emotional as I used to, but I think for the longest time, I couldn't quite put my finger on why I didn't really feel celebrated or feel like celebrating, or felt uncomfortable when somebody wanted to celebrate it. I can remember as a little girl hearing my grandmother say like that my mom really shouldn't have had more children, that she had no business having more children. And I know that was coming from a place of love and concern now. They were concerned for her. She was already showing signs of mental illness and they were afraid. And I think as a little girl, I really internalized that as like, uh-oh, she wasn't supposed to have had me. But again, like I said, I've done a lot of work in that area and kind of revised that. I do look back at photos and see me as a baby and that first like 18 months of life with my grandfather specifically. We had a really tight connection from day one. And I have to imagine that there was so much pain from losing their own child, but then also so much joy from having this little baby to distract and, take care of. And my granddad always told me, like, y'all were like our second go around, our second chance,
You kind of saved them in a way.
Yeah. So that's really helped, I think, with the revision piece. But I too try to make it a big thing for my kids now. They know the story of conception. They were IVF babies. And we talk about that a lot and how wanted they were, and how hard we had to work to even have them. So,
yes, it's important. If you're listening to this, tell your children that you wanted them, like always. And that if it, don't say like you were an accident or we didn't want any more, just say like you were a wonderful surprise. Like we were really, excited to find out we were having you, because it really can change a lot of things. And like you were saying with birthdays, even to this day, my mom just wants to avoid her birthday altogether. It's just because there just never was a lot of joy around it. And so I think, like you said, I really try. I mean, man, now these kids with birthdays, I mean, they're going on Olivia goes on trips and all this stuff. That's like crazy. It's, crazy kind of birthdays. I mean,
yes.
I don't know, but yeah, that was, it's interesting though, with like what you get to know about your birth story and then how you use that information when you have your own baby and when you're pregnant. And I don't know. I just remember, do you remember when you found out you're pregnant and you just have no clue what's coming?
No, not at all. Not at all. We had gone through several rounds of like IUI, so intrauterine insemination, and it failed. And I had unexplained infertility. I still to this day don't understand why we couldn't get pregnant naturally, but we just couldn't. And so we went straight to in vitro after like our third failed attempt, and it worked on the first round. But this was many, many months of shots and hormones and just, calls and visits and trips to the doctor and all of that. So I really related to that part of Elisa's story. The grueling experience of going through that. And then, people around you are getting pregnant so easily. And I think that was another part of my story of like, my body's failing me. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. Look, I can't even get pregnant, that kind of thing. And then when it finally happened, we were just so awestruck at the whole process that like, this worked. You mean like you can take my eggs out and you can fertilize them and then you can put them back in, and that really worked? Oh my gosh. And I was really anxious. No surprise there. The first, I would say probably 3, 4, 5 months of the pregnancy. Am I still pregnant? Oh my gosh, am I going to lose this pregnancy?
I know.
I remember having like even like a little bit of like spotting or something like the first trimester, and I was like, that's it, I'm done. That's it. This isn't going to stick. And I would go to the doctor, and sure enough, there would still be a heartbeat, that kind of thing. So I held my breath the majority of my pregnancy, I felt like, but it was a good pregnancy overall. What about you?
Well, you remember, I mean, I remember when I sent you
Yes.
I sent you a picture that night, and I had Josh and I had stopped trying. We were like, we're going to go to Europe this summer. And I just was, not going to care anymore. But I just took a pregnancy test, and then I just went and watched some show or something for like 2 hours, and I came back and I see a line. Like, I'd forgotten the test was there. And I was like, and I remember sending you a picture, and you were like, I see a line. And I made my husband, guys, pee on one to see if like there was something wrong with them. And of course he's like, whatever. And so I made him, and then I did it again, and there was a line, and then I took like a digital one, and it was like, no. But then I did another test in the morning, and it said yes. But when I took the pressure off of myself, because we had been married almost 10 years before we had Olivia. And, it was just, and then I remember we met up, and I was only like 7 weeks pregnant, and I was like, Cindy, I'm scared. Like, what if I lose? It's so funny because you're so excited when you see that test. Yeah. That you're pregnant. Oh my gosh. And then you have to wait the 8 weeks to get into the doctor till they're 8 weeks. And we found out Olivia, it was before my missed period. So, she was, I remember being like, why am I not nauseous? And my mom was like, most people don't even know yet, but then at 6 weeks, it like hit me terribly. But, I just remember being like terrified. I didn't even post an announcement about it until I was like 24, 26 weeks. I think it was 26 weeks.
I remember that.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know. Like, I was just so scared and terrified. And, again, just an anxious person worrying something was going to happen. Luckily, I have a child who kicked the entire time once I could start feeling kicks. Like, I'm telling you, like, never stopped kicking.
Same with Ethan.
Yes, never stopped. And that should be an indication of like, hey, like this child's going to be on the move. Because I swear, some people, I had some friends and they were like, baby's not moving. We got to like drink some water and lay on our side to see if it's moving. Oh, no. My child never stopped.
Yeah.
So,
same with Ethan. As soon as I would get like still and comfortable, it would start, and it would go all night. And with the twins, it was so different. They were so calm. They would move occasionally, but like for the most part, it was so different from the first. So different.
And I feel like, I don't know. Did you have terrible morning sickness? I was like really sick.
It's weird. I didn't have morning sickness, but my sense of smell was so on point. Okay. I just remember at one point turning to Eric and being like, you smell like garbage. You smell like garbage. Like, I can't ride in the car with you because there's just this like smell, and I couldn't that's so mean. Love you, Eric. But like, there was
smell like
something.
Trash. Get away from me.
You smell like trash. My sense of smell was so heightened. I was teaching elementary school at the time, and I was in this like little portable in Las Vegas, and it was like 115 degrees, and I would send the kids out to recess. And on my days where I had no recess duty, I would lock my portable door and I would lay in my reading corner and I would take a nap like every single day, and I would just die for like 30 to 45 minutes. I've never felt that exhausted in my entire life. But yeah, it was weird. No throwing up, but just intense smell. I felt like a track dog or something.
You're like, what's around here?
Who hasn't showered? Like,
I know.
Take care of yourself. What about you? You were sick?
I was so sick. I was. They almost had to put in a port. They had talked about putting in a port with like Zofran, and I had gone on the internet and read about it, and I was like, I cannot take Zofran. It can cause all these issues for your baby. But they got me on some medicine, and I was just sick till about 18 weeks, like just sick, throwing up. The last time I threw up was 18 weeks, and then it came back again. But I remember I had a friend who told me like, that's a good sign that the baby's healthy. And I was like, well, shit, like this baby is like, come on. I was so
right.
And I could not, I only wanted like lemon stuff, like anything that was lemony, Or like bagels with melted butter, like a toasted bagel with melted butter was like,
That's so
isn't
interesting.
that funny? And McDonald's, and I hadn't eaten McDonald's in forever. And I was like, oh, don't come at me, RFK people. But like, yeah, the McDonald's, I was all about it. Like, give me the fries, the
Oh
chicken
my
nuggets. Like,
gosh.
and I
I
did not
love
care.
it.
It was the first time in my life that I
Mhm.
was like, I don't
Give it
care.
all to me. Yeah.
I'm going to eat it all. And I gained over 50 pounds. And I remember people saying, oh, you're going to just gain like 15 pounds and be so cute and tiny. No,
No.
I didn't, and you know what? It comes off. It does
Yeah,
come off. But
it
I had
does.
like the Jessica Simpson ankles. Remember when she like I was I swear with girls, like everyone with boys is cute. They're just like a little cute little tummy.
Oh no.
I was so swollen, and I had back knee, like everything. It was like, you know, in that movie, What to Expect When You're Expecting,
Yes.
I was that woman who was like really having a tough pregnancy. Like
Yeah.
I did not enjoy pregnancy. I was scared the whole time. Um, I had some issues with my placenta I was worried about, which
Mhm.
we both
Mhm.
did,
We
Cindy.
both did. Yeah.
And I remember going down that rabbit hole. And I remember my doctor being like, now, Sarah, do not go and Google this. And I'm like, oh, of course not. And then I go Google like what I have. And I'm like, great.
Ugh.
But yeah, I just remember pregnancy was like, I did not enjoy being pregnant. I was not
Yeah.
one of those women who was just like, this is beautiful. I love it. No, I did not. I did
I think
not.
with my first pregnancy, for the first like 6 or 7 months, I was just completely in awe. And again, I think it had a lot to do with just the challenges to even get
Yeah.
pregnant. We really didn't think we were going to be able to have children. And so I was just so curious the whole time, in awe, like what is happening to your body. To watch your body go through something like that is
Mm-hmm.
so bizarre. And it was fascinating. And I too didn't care. I just ate with
Yeah.
reckless abandon. Like, we had this place called Chicago Tasty Dog next to us, next to our house. And I would go and I would get like a foot-long Chicago Tasty Dog with sauerkraut,
I love it.
mustard, and I would eat the entire thing. And then we would go straight through the Krispy Kreme drive-through, and I would have like a hot donut to top it off. And I remember towards the end of my pregnancy, it was 4th of July weekend because Ethan was born on the 19th.
Yes.
I gained 7 pounds in 2 days. Okay. Didn't even know that was possible. Didn't even think you could do that. But I just remember for 4th of July, I got myself a big old bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken and sat outside and watched the fireworks
Your
over the Las
cankles.
Vegas
No.
with my cankles over the Las Vegas Strip, just watching the fireworks. And it was like, I was like a disposal. Like, I couldn't get full. And then I go
Yeah.
into my doctor appointment and he's like, oh, wow. Okay. Well, you still have like 3 more weeks before this C-section. So slow it down there, mama. It was
You're like,
bad.
give me all the carbs, all the food,
Yes.
all the
I
nasty,
loved
greasy
it.
stuff. I know.
I
I did.
loved that part. Yeah.
Yeah, after I was done with like more like feeling really sick, I loved just like eating whatever. I did not
Yeah.
care.
It was so great.
It was so great. And I don't want to say like, look, I know people have a hard time. There are people that are dreaming to have kids and be pregnant.
Yeah.
And I am so thankful I was able to like carry my child and all those. But it was just, I was so sick. Like I had to
Yeah.
take off a month from work, and I was scared there. There was a time
It's
I thought I was
scary.
coughing up or that I was throwing up blood. I thought
Oh,
I was. It wasn't. It was just from the Cherry Garcia ice cream, guys, and it looked like blood. And I was like, am I throwing up blood clots? Yeah. But no, yeah, pregnancy, I know people are like, it's such a beautiful
mm,
thing, but let me tell you,
it's traumatic.
it's traumatic. And I also want to say, I'm really sick of people saying stuff about your body when you're pregnant, because so many people would say to me,
Yes.
oh, that's a boy. It's not a boy. I have a long torso and I carried my daughter low and I was so swollen, and people would be like, that's a boy. If I've ever seen one, that's a
Oh
boy. I can't tell you
gosh.
how many
I
people.
hate that.
And I was like, But maybe they weren't wrong because my daughter does love, like, she does have boy energy. Like, she really does. But I mean, yeah, can we just like not comment on women's bodies when they're pregnant? Or say
in
like,
general,
you have twins in there? Okay, that's not like,
right.
No, I don't. Okay,
No,
I don't. And or when I would order a coffee and the woman was like, caffeine free, and I said, nope, give me the caffeine.
Yeah.
And she just looked at me like I was poisoning my child. And I was like, okay, stop. I can have a little caffeine. It's not going to hurt my baby.
Right.
Just let people live and do their, like, just,
I don't understand.
I'm not, shooting up in an alley somewhere. It's like I'm drinking a little latte. I waited till I was 20 weeks. And then at 20 weeks, I was like, I'm going to have just a little caffeine every day.
Yes.
Just
When I was pregnant with the twins, Ethan was a toddler because that made a lot of sense to have them so close in age. I don't know what we were thinking.
I think it's better than like having them so far apart because then you're like starting over. At least they're all in diapers. Get it over with.
God, I think that was the mindset. And then looking back, I was like, okay, we must have been like gluttons for punishment or something because I really don't remember those first few years of parenting. It was just like my brain was protecting me, I guess, on some level. But yeah, I remember my OB told me towards the end of, actually, no, it was in the middle of my pregnancy with the twins. And he said, you should just have a glass of wine at night. And I looked at him and I was like, what? Really? Like I should have a glass of wine at night? Well, so then they were born prematurely. I don't know if it was related to the glass of wine at night.
Your little wine is fine. You're not drinking a bottle.
Right.
You're not on intervention. It's going to be okay.
I did have that glass of wine though, towards what I thought was safe enough. And then they were born early. But I want to go back to the idea of birth being traumatic. And when I say that sometimes to my clients who come in who have had a postpartum depression experience, which that's for next episode, we're going to talk about postpartum. We don't name it as we should. I mean, yes, birth is amazing. It's miraculous. It can be a beautiful thing, but it is trauma to the body.
To your body. Yeah. It's insane.
Why doesn't anybody like prepare you? I remember I had a planned C-section with my first and nobody told me what was going to happen. And yes, you can't really feel anything, but when that wears off, the pain medication and your body is shaking.
Yeah.
I didn't even understand why I was shaking, and the nurse was telling me like, oh yeah, like the medication's wearing off. Sometimes you'll shake. And I'm like, did anyone want to give me a heads up about what happens in this process? It's scary.
Yeah. No one talks about it. No one talks about all of, the things that happen to your body. I mean, I feel like it's your body's gone to war. I know I've said it multiple, and like you're just a different person. Like,
yes,
it's all different. Regardless if you have a C-section, you push your baby out.
Yeah,
your body's been to war, and you've got a story. And yeah, it's I remember too, like taking the class and you're like, I'm going to do all the breathing exercises. And then also, can we also, if you have an epidural, that's amazing. If you have it naturally, that's amazing. If you have it to have a C-section, great. Can we just like, we're all getting our babies here how we can.
Yeah. So let's not make it a competition.
Yeah. I mean,
one is better than the other.
Everybody's bodies are still going through something. Everybody's bodies.
Yes.
And your vagina is now different. It is. It's different. I don't
Even
care.
if you have a C-section, it's still
different. It's all different. Okay. It's different.
Everything changes down there. It just
it's all different. It's different. And it's a different ballgame. It's funny though, because I joke that I was so nervous for birth. But I didn't even feel the shot for the epidural. Like, I don't know. And I was in labor because my water broke at 1:30 in the morning, and my husband was on a trip, and I was at 38 weeks. So I had texted him, and he's like, just leaving LA to get to, where was he flying to? Atlanta. And I was like, great. Well, my water just broke. So like, I'm headed to the hospital. And I get there and they're like, we're not going to do anything until your husband gets here. No epidural, nothing. Well, he didn't even make it in because he had to fly from Atlanta to Dallas. So luckily my mom was here. But I just remember I had those hours from like 1:30 until 11 with nothing.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and it was, I mean, I have a pretty good tolerance for pain, but when they came in, I was like so scared of the epidural, like the
Yeah.
needle. And I was like, oh no. It was like I slept afterwards.
Wow.
And then I only pushed for 30 minutes. But for me, the trauma came like after pushing my child out.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, what the hell just happened?
Right.
And then I was like,
Right.
what just happened? Like, I don't,
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I don't know. How about you? Like, I mean, I can't
Yeah.
imagine. I was so scared of a C-section because I'm like, you're awake and they're cutting your body. Like, I don't even know what that
Yeah.
would feel like.
Yeah. So for, Ethan was a planned C, like I said, because we had some,
Yeah.
cord prolapse stuff going on there. And so they didn't want to risk it. And so we packed our bag. I mean, it was pretty like you would see in the movies, right? Like I went and had my last meal at a buffet down on the strip and
I love
woke up
it.
the next morning, took pictures, went to the hospital, had the spinal, felt nothing. Eric was super annoying through the whole situation because they put the big sheet up, and he's like,
Mhm.
it's so crazy down here. Like it's like sci-fi down here and it's like you up here. And he's like, do you want me to tell you what's going on? Oh my God, they have your uterus out
It's
on a
like a
tray.
play
And I'm
by
like,
play.
can you just please shut up? Like, this is traumatic. Ethan didn't cry at first. And so, of course, I was convinced and I was like, oh my gosh, but he was healthy. It was great. Everything was
Mm-hmm.
pretty smooth sailing with him, except for the breastfeeding thing, which we'll talk about in
Oh,
our
let's go.
postpartum episode.
Oh, I mean,
But with the twins, like I said, Eric was also on a trip. He was in
this
England
is my favorite
and
story in the whole world. This is my favorite.
yeah, I'll never forget it. I woke up and I was like, something is not right. I was supposed to take Ethan to a play date and I was like, I better go get this checked out. I took him, dropped him off with a friend, drove myself to the hospital, walked up to the third floor. They hooked me up to a monitor and they were like, you're in full blown like labor. Like you're having these babies today. And I'm like, what? Like I can't, they, they are, they're
Mm-hmm.
still too early, called Eric, different time zone. And he's like, I'm not going to be able to get there. I can't get a flight out of London. And so we had the next best thing. His best friend, our groomsman, our best man in our wedding.
Jason.
Jason, he drove up to the hospital and he was my stand-in. And so he came up and I had the babies and then they were rushed to a level 3 NICU, a different hospital, totally different hospital. And so I saw them for like a split second. And they stayed in the NICU for like 5 weeks.
Wow.
But yeah, Jason was my stand-in guy. He slept on the dad couch. He helped me shave my legs.
I know, that's my favorite is he helped you shave your legs. I love it. What a good friend.
Because I can't go a day without shaving my legs. Like I just given birth to twins.
Shave my legs to your husband's best friend. I just love it. That's a whole other level of like being like down
Vulnerable.
for, you know what I mean? Like that's a real ride or die like friend.
Yes.
It's like, I'm going to shave your legs. But
I'm going to shave your legs for you.
I mean.
And at that point, you have no dignity anymore when you have a baby, Like, again, they don't tell you, like, what's going on down there. So, like, you're just not right down there for a really long time. So the first 48 hours is, like, it's pretty disgusting.
Oh, no one talks about that. And, like, after where you have to, like, go to the bath, they're like, you have to urinate within this.
Yes.
And it's like, and if you tear, which I did.
Yeah.
That's like, that's rough business because that epidural has worn off. Okay. And I also have a latex allergy, which I didn't know with the diapers that they put on me, even though I had
Oh,
informed them. So I developed
gosh.
a huge rash. So that was fun. Yeah, wearing
Oh,
diapers.
gosh.
Yes.
Sorry about all the bells in the background, by the way. We have a puppy and we are training
Oh,
him.
you
So
are totally fine.
there
I
you go. That's just what happens.
but yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint of heart, like having a child and what your body goes through. And
No.
I don't know. No one talked about that. Like nobody was like, your vagina's gonna have been to like war and you're gonna need to now completely like spray things down. Oh, and while you're at it, here's a child that you have to take care of. No recovery for you.
Oh, I
And
can't wait to
careful
get
when you,
in.
yeah, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
insane, the whole situation. And it's funny too, because after you have a baby, I don't know about you, but before, like when you go to the gyno and you're like, oh, and they're like, spread your legs a little further, a little bit further. After you have a baby, you're like, like here, they're spread. I don't care. We've done it all.
Get in
You've
there.
had the mirror in front of it. Like I've pushed, I've seen, like we're good. We're good. Like there is no, you know what I mean? Like you're just there. I just remember with trying to breastfeed too, I just felt like
Oh,
I
God.
don't know, just like a naked woman, just like, come on in, folks. Like, come see the
It's
show. I'm
so
trying.
disorienting. I mean, think about this for a second. Like, again, to go back to the trauma, your body just delivered a actual real live human being. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only are you not processing that, like I remember looking at Ethan, like going like, oh my God, like a human, that he's a human, he's a real human.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. And then you've got the La Leche League coming in your
Oh,
room
geez.
every 5 seconds and waking you up, and you're like, it's time to feed. And then they're manhandling you, and you're just like, this is
Mm-hmm.
just like, so like, can I just get like a minute, please?
Yeah.
Just,
I mean,
it's like, I understand it's
yeah.
important, but like, this is just, I don't know. Sometimes I think there needs to be some trauma informed care around delivery and how to interact with the mother.
Well, yeah, because I think after the baby's born, like until the baby's born, everybody's like, how are you? What can we do? How can we help you? And then the baby's here and everybody's like, how's the baby? And it's like, I'm still over here and I'm completely like a mess,
Bruised up,
bruised up.
used and
Yeah.
abused, folks.
Yeah, rode hard and put up wet. It's been a tough time. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
it's
God.
yeah, and Olivia, I
Oh,
didn't know that about Ethan. Olivia wasn't crying either, and I was like, why is she not crying? Why is she? And because
yeah,
I had heard my brother's birth story my whole life. Like he was
yeah.
flu, there were pictures of him, they had to take him away, and I was like, why is she not like screaming? Like I need her to be crying. And they had to take her and clear out some things. And then I
Mm.
remember her neck was all funny. Her eye looked like she had a
Oh,
clogged, and like her, and I was like, I was like, what's wrong? Like, why,
yeah.
why does my baby look like Winston Churchill? Like, what happened? Like, what happened to my child? Like, and
It's
everybody
so
was like, it's fine.
confusing.
It's fine. And I was like, it's not fine. Like, she's like this, and her eyes like weird, and her poor little neck. And I was like
Oh.
worried, and I kept asking questions, and everyone was very dismissive. And I think
Hmm.
that's what was really like hard, is like I felt like no one was listening to me
Yeah.
and my concerns for my child. And
Yes.
you know it was, try this to breastfeed, try that. Well, my daughter had a tongue tie, we didn't know till she was 2.
Yeah.
And so of course I wish it would have been a nice, and they checked, but like they didn't check to see like there are different kinds.
Yeah.
And I remember,
Yeah.
Cindy, you had called to check on me and you were coming up, and I'll never forget it, because Josh was telling you on the phone, he's like, yeah, they're just being really awful to Sarah about breastfeeding. And if I could do it now, knowing what I know, I would have been like, give me the damn formula. But
Yeah. No kidding.
I remember you said, tell those Tre Leche bitches to leave my girl alone. Because I had 4 lactation people come in, and the last lady, I started just crying, and she goes, I don't really think you're into this. Should I just get a bottle? And I was like already in
Oh,
tears. And my
come
husband at
on.
that point was like, we're done. We're
We're
leaving
done.
this hospital. Like my
Yeah.
aftercare was horrific in the hospital. Like
Same. Yeah.
it was just I felt very dismissed off, like just no one listening. They took Olivia one night to the nursery from me, and I was already like, wanting to hold her and be with her. And they were like, we're taking her. You guys need to rest. Like, they didn't give me an option. And I'm like,
same.
do y'all think I'm not good enough? Like, am I not taking care of my baby enough? And
Right.
I don't know.
Weird.
It's just like there needs to be like better protocol. I don't know.
I agree.
On how to talk to women and how to treat them. And like, honestly, formula is okay.
It is okay.
Because I got my daughter on formula and it was much better. And like, get on the formula. It's okay if you can't breastfeed. Let's stop with this. Like, however you can feed your baby, feed them.
That's right. I agree. Look, I was a child of the late 70s, early 80s, and I think I turned out okay. And I was bottle fed from day one.
Same.
And
me too. No one cared about, I didn't even get that. I don't even think my mom gave me the
colostrum or whatever.
No.
Yeah.
It was like, give this girl a bottle, man. Let her sleep for 12 hours.
Well, I also think too, it's interesting to see how breastfeeding has changed over the years. Like, it used to be viewed as like kind of a lower class thing, right? Like, this is like what people did if they didn't have the means, or the, it was cheaper, it was this or that. And then it just like totally shifted to like, now formula is all bad and like all this stuff. And I'm like, really? Because like my kids are pretty healthy, for the most part. They don't get sick a lot. Like, and again, don't come at me if you are all for breastfeeding. That's great. Good for you. I love that for you.
Yeah.
But for me, I had to choose my sanity over, above all else. And so I'm looking forward to next week, Sarah, as we get into this postpartum talk, because I had just a really interesting journey, and
we both did.
I know you did as well. And I'm passionate about this topic specifically, again, because I think there's so much psychoeducation that still needs to happen with women about postpartum to reduce the shame, to be able to look at your birth story a little bit differently. I think it could save people a lot of heartache. A lot of money in therapy trying to figure out what was wrong, what went wrong there. I've spent a lot of time revising my own, like I said, and it doesn't have to be so painful and hard.
No. And I think it's been healing having you as a friend for me, and we'll go into more detail, but not feeling so alone, because you can feel very alone in postpartum.
Oh God. Yeah.
I mean, it's for me, labor, that went fine. Everything else after was where, for me, it just started to get real messy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and so next week, guys, we're going to share all about our postpartum journeys and how we got where we are, and how we got through it. And hopefully, you guys come along for the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. Join us next week, guys. Can't wait to be back and see you all then.
Yes. Enjoy your week.
All right. Take care, guys.